Hey everyone, welcome to So Many Sequels, your book club for movies. I'm Josh, and today we've got something a little different for you. We've got an interview episode. By His Hand is a new cult thriller made in Utah. It follows two people escaping a religious commune and the man who won't let them go. On the surface, it's a chase thriller. Underneath that, it's a movie about codependency, masculinity, and what it costs to leave behind the only world you've ever known. The filmmakers grew up in the LDS faith, and this story came out of that. You can feel it. Today, Dave and I are sitting down with the three people who made it. Taylor Paur, who directed and co-wrote the film, Ethan Paur, who co-wrote and produced it, and Connor Paur, who produced. Yes, they're brothers. And yes, that dynamic does come through in the conversation. If you want to watch the film before or after this episode, it's available to rent or buy on Amazon right now. It's also hitting Tubi on May 29th. Here's the interview.
We were kind of wondering, what was it about this story that you guys felt like this is a story that needs to be told?
And before you answer that, I think it'd be great if we went ahead and you guys went around and said your names and your role in the film, what you did for it.
Okay. Great. Do you want to start, Taylor?
Sure. Yeah. I'm Taylor Paur. I'm the director, co-writer, and producer for the film By His Hand. Happy to be here.
I'm Ethan Paur. I wrote and co-wrote and produced By His Hand, and I am also happy to be here. This is awesome.
Yeah, and I'm Connor Paur. I produced By His Hand. I'm also happy to be here, by the way.
Wonderful. So are we.
Happy to.
We're all happy. Yeah.
Happy to be in the right room.
I'm not saying that now. So,
David, did you want to repeat your question for them real quick?
Well, the movie seems like there's a very personal aspect to it, but I wanted to just know, what was it that about this movie that you guys felt like this story needed to be told, what it needed to be made?
I'll go. So
Go ahead, yeah.
By His Hand, it's I made a short version of this film. It's very loosely based on the feature back in 2020. And it kind of leaned more into like kind of a cult aspect, communal aspect. And I got some positive feedback for that. So I felt like I wanted to expand on that and make it. I love like the chase genre. I love the cult genre. I love road films. So I kind of wanted to like take all that and add my own unique kind of like flair of Utah and how I grew up here and some of the more strange like religious and social aspects of that. Yeah, the film is it's a cult thriller, but I guess you could say it's like it got a cult thriller wrapper, but it's kind of really just a film about codependency and relationships and figuring it out.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing for me about it too. Is that like, I mean, there's different layers here. Like, I think it was very personal, obviously. Like for me, it was very cathartic for us to write it because we felt like, we grew up in this state. We grew up in this religion. We grew up in this world. And so obviously, like, we felt comfortable talking about a lot of these things. Obviously for us, it was like we grew up in the LDS faith and then we left it behind. And the story kind of mirrors that. You have two characters that are leaving something behind. But for us, I think the more I think about this movie and the more I've been talking about it, the more I'm realizing that it's not about, it's about the religion. It's about the dogma. It touches on that. But more than those things, to me, it's about my journey being a man in the world. It's about masculinity. It's about like the strangeness and the variance of masculinity and kind of like that struggle. I feel like that's why Taylor and I had to write it. If I had to give an answer to that, we had to kind of purge something from our system. When it came to that, it was a lot of self-reflection, and that was kind of coded, and it was coated in the religion and the dogma and the cult. Also, I think just like from a nuts and bolts perspective, like we wrote something that we could make with our budget constraints that was doable. It was very small movie. It's characters in a car driving. And so we wanted to make something that felt like a journey, like something that was large in scope that we could kind of, do feasibly. And so I think By His Hand was just perfect. It just checked all those boxes. It was personal. It was something that was from the heart, and also something we could do in our backyard.
Yeah. It was achievable,
And that's important. That's
yeah.
really important as we're learning. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. I wanted to ask about the title "By His Hand." It's got a religious weight to it, but it's also kind of threatening. So I wanted to ask you guys what that phrase "By His Hand" means to each of you, and how you came to settle on that being the title of the movie.
That came from Taylor. Taylor wrote the short, and I don't know, where did that come from?
Oh, well, I mean, it sounds cool and weighty. I mean, to be very frank, right? It sounds cool.
Mhm.
It's weighty. It definitely brings like a very heavy, ominous, religious cult leader vibe to it. That title is from the short film. In the short film, it's more directly referenced, but kind of is like a nod to the short film. We just carried the title through.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
we actually had this conversation. It's like, is it going to be weird that it's not really apparent what the title means? But we liked it, right? We thought that the tone really fit, and then it's just kind of a cool thing that like it had this origin somewhere outside of the film, and we carried the thread along, even though it's not really apparent from watching the film. It is cohesive in some kind of like larger way that maybe is not, again, super apparent if you just watch the film itself, but it's kind of got this like universal like cohesiveness across the broader story that these guys told.
There's this little moment that happened. I think we were done with the movie. So Taylor, I don't know, but if you mind me sharing it, like a lot of like the pacing and the tone and the structure of the story, you'd never guess, but we're super obsessed with Mad Max Fury Road. Like we love Mad Max Fury Road. And like part of the thing with Taylor when we were first doing this is like, I want this to feel like Mad Max. Like obviously it's not gonna feel like that.
Yeah.
It's not like action movies, but the structure is pretty, it's like it starts, you kind of hit the ground running,
Mhm.
and it's just like the characters leave a place and then someone follows them. And so we loved that movie, and I was watching Mad Max Fury Road, and there's a scene where like the guy who like sprays his face silver, I don't know who,
Yeah.
the Nicholas Hoult, he's in the car and he does that and he says, "Oh, by his hand," and he says that.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wonder if that was like the subliminal thing that happened because we were so obsessed with Mad Max Fury Road.
100%.
That's so
Yeah,
funny.
it's funny. I was actually earlier today thinking, I'm like, maybe the most concise way I could describe this movie is it's really just like neo-Western Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah.
It's very similar in that it's just about a man that thinks he has ownership over other people, and feels slighted that something was taken from him.
Yeah, and he's created this system of rules that sort of work in his, like he has a total sense of control. And I was kind of interested because that is really interesting because it plays into sort of something that I was thinking about is that like, you have these sort of cult leaders. There's obviously been a lot of, media and material written on them over time and sort of their motivations and what makes them tick. But I was also really curious about, you have a group of followers in the movie that seem to be at different stages of their, compliance. And the main two characters, Sam and Emma, they're in a total state of like rebellion or dissonance. What is it? How is it? What's the challenge of writing a character that is ready to like, or has reached that breaking point of I have to leave, I have to get out? Is there a challenge to putting that on screen?
I think for the different characters, so you talk about Sam and Emma, and you talk about Adam back at the commune, you talk about the women that stayed back at the commune, and Levi as well. Really, I think that how we crafted these characters was just drawing from personal experience and kind of like revisiting different phases of our upbringing and different kind of crucial moments of when we made decisions about like where we wanted to go and how we wanted to veer, based on our religious upbringing, right? So the Sam and Emma came pretty easy to us because that was just a reflection on my 20s, essentially, right? It's about escaping this thing and thinking that once you run away, you have the answers. You're out. Life is fun. Life is good. You find out very quickly that it's not really as cut and dry as that, right? And then the character Adam back at the compound, I think once Fowler's left, he kind of has this moment of subtle realizations that he comes to himself, and he's allowed that like breathing room to see kind of what this commune is.
When it comes to Fowler, I find that there's a lot of things that you can fear in this movie, or there's a lot of things to find fear in: the uncertainty, the new world that awaits an escape, the violence of someone like Fowler, and I wonder what to you makes him scarier: the just his kind of unhinged power, or the system that allows him to become powerful.
That's a really good question. I think what scares me the most, I've been thinking about this. I think when you think about like a dynamic between a powerful leader or like manipulator. I was watching this documentary last night about it was a what's his name, Louis Theroux. He's a documentarian. He made a movie about the manosphere, or like a doc about the
Yes, I've
manosphere.
seen this. Yeah.
Yeah, and what fascinated me the most and what scared me the most was the way that, like you said, the receptiveness of the masses to it. The way that these guys, I mean, the guys themselves were horrifying, and like they're spewing all this hatred and this crap. But like watching them was one thing, but watching them go out into the streets and seeing all these young men like come up to them and give them hugs and be like, "Oh, you've saved me. You've saved my life. You've given my life purpose." I think that's what freaks me out the most, is the susceptibility of people, and the kind of vulnerability of the people of the world, and the way that these guys, the Fowlers of the world, take advantage of them. So I think what scares me the most is something that we illustrate in a scene early on, where the Fowler sends his commune. For people who haven't seen the movie, we open with Fowler, the cult leader. He sends the people of this commune on this strange ritual where they have to put blindfolds on and go through the woods, and they have to keep their blindfold on. They have to hold on to a rope through the woods, and it's freaky and it's scary. And then they come out the other end of it, and Fowler's waiting for them after this like bizarre nightmare experience. But like the clincher, like the real nightmare, is that Fowler's waiting there for them, and he says, like, "You are loved. Like you made it. I'm proud of you." And so that's the thing that scares me. I think that's the danger with these things, is that it makes people feel good, and it's not good. It's a toxic sort of thing. I think that's the scariest thing about Fowler, because it's easy to see when he's losing his shit and losing his mind, but like he's at his most dangerous when he's making people feel loved.
Yeah, and I think, as I kind of, watch and think about these things, one of the aspects that I think is really interesting, and partly from my own experience, and and from hearing others, is, I mean, if you look at this and you look at kind of these commune members, look, not all of them came to their belief independently, right? This wasn't something that each of them was presented. They you know, pondered, they decided to come and follow Fowler, right? A lot of them were probably born into either this or something like this, right? So that dynamic is really interesting to me as well. When you are, you're born into something, you're presented with a reality that outside of that reality is very strange, right? And objectively abusive. But when that's all you know and that's your bubble, it's not weird at all, right? So, there are a lot of, these moments throughout the film, when you've got some of the younger men kind of looking through these things, and it's like, what's Pakistan? It's like, oh, it's this magical realm. It's like it's a chuckle moment for the audience, but it's like, hey, no, that's their reality, and it's just interesting to kind of think about the ways that plays out. And again, having come from belief systems ourselves, I'm not trying to make any direct correlations to anything, but that was one of the things that I reflect on, is like, well, what level of reality are these people presented versus like what have they chosen to actually believe, and what is that, how does that color their worldview, and how, and then later on, how does that affect their choices once they are maybe presented with something that they think, wait a minute, is this wrong? Is my whole reality wrong? Like, then what does that do? And then what does that say about how you approach that? And the courage that it takes to actually, not only leave what but what is essentially your reality. And that's a really devastating thing.
Yeah, I think you hit on an interesting point of that. We're born, or at the very, at different ages. I mean, we accept authority, at a young age. Like when we're growing up, the people who are older than us, we accept their authority on topics or on issues. And even when you talk about the manosphere guys, these are people who dress themselves in cloaks of authority, of like, hey, I look at my life, it's reached this level, and I've reached this level because I did X, Y, and Z. Even if they didn't do those things, they get you to buy into it. There's something, and I don't know if this was something intentional, but I got caught up on this story that Sam and darn, I've forgotten his Josh. We're talking, Josh is right in front of me. So his friend Josh, where they tell this story about giving a napkin to this old man and telling him it's acid, and he freaks out, as though he's on acid, and just the concept, like you said, of the power of suggestion, of just giving someone the implication that there's something wrong with you that I can fix, or there's something wrong with you, and just letting their own mind sort of convince them that the only way to fix it is to listen to me. It is a scary thought. Is that something that and I think, I don't know if you guys have an opinion on this, but it feels like despite our growing, we're in this information age, technology is everywhere, there seems to be a backlash towards, an older world mindset, maybe. Is that something you guys see, or is that something that you guys are considered when making this, as sort of that, call for an older or simpler or more structured time?
I think in the sense of, I mean, old world mindset can mean a lot of different things, but I think to me, the only thing I would want to, as far as like any sort of message with the movie, is as far as any like, hey, let's take a step back and get back to a place. I don't know if we've ever been there, so I don't know if this is even relevant, but I would just say, like, opening our ears, like being able to like listen, being able to agree on a common ground of reality. I mean, being able to, like, if you can call like kindness between strangers and love thy neighbor an old world value, then yes, that's one that I would think we should go back to. I don't know if we've ever quite been there. I think we're hopefully we're working towards that, but that's the only, as far as like any sort of message in the movie, I just think if there's a message of all the good religious message is love thy neighbor, right? Simple as that. That's what I would say.
I'll follow up with that. I think that's an interesting question, and my mind immediately goes to the end of the film. And I think there is kind of a lot of tactile juxtaposition between going back to nature versus being in kind of this like toxic, hellish like civilization landscape, right? So Emma's car breaks down, so she can't drive her car anymore, and she just quite literally finds community at the end, people that are kind to her, which is just like I hope an old world basic human function, and she's just back to chopping wood and starting a fire and sitting by the fire in silence, right? And that compared to where Sam and Fowler are at, that's just chaos and a cacophony of like noise and anger. I think there certainly is like a nod to the power of just like peace in nature and inner peace for sure. Yeah.
I have, Josh, I don't know if you have any of these. I have a couple of sort of like, I guess, techie kind of questions. I
Go
guess,
ahead, yeah.
you know, there's, first, we're from Oklahoma. There's a burgeoning attempt to kind of get to kind of grow an Oklahoma film scene here. And,
Cool.
you know, you guys getting to shoot in Utah, where you're from, and kind of take advantage of some of the beauty of that and some of the amazing land, vistas and landscapes of that area. Can you guys kind of talk about what Utah brought to the movie?
Oof. I mean,
however you interpret that.
yeah, I mean, before I answer this question, I want to say that like you've said a few things that you've kind of taught me about the movie in some ways. Like you've said a few things, like what the question you asked about, like the old world thinking, and then the way that Taylor responded with the juxtaposition of like this hellscape compared with where Emma ends up. I didn't pick up on that, and like the story about the acid and the power of suggestion. Like that's a beautiful. Taylor, did you think of that? Did you think of that mirroring, or
I think
are we
it's
going to
great.
pretend we did? Yeah,
I love it.
No, I love
Movies
it.
are magic.
We have
Yeah,
our own,
I love it. It
opinions and interpretation for that story, but I think that, I mean, man, that's the beauty
love it.
of film, right? Like,
Yeah,
and every time somebody asks me like what like they should take from the film, my answer is really just like, I hope you take something. I'm not going to tell you what it is because it means something very personal and very intentional for me. Especially this film. I feel like this film, we had to bring like a lot of personal experience to it, for better or for worse, right? But
Right.
I just love hearing.
it's amazing. So thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
And then to answer your question, this movie is like it is Utah. Like I can't like thematically, like the locations, the crew, I mean, hell, the like the camera rental house, like the experiences we had growing up, the tax incentive, the cast. It's so Utah. It's Utah to the bone. Like I mean, I'm very, very excited. I kind of want to hear about the Oklahoma film scene. I want to know what that's all about. What's going on with you guys?
Well, Josh, you may be able to speak more to this, but it's been like a process over the last decade of trying to create like worthwhile tax incentives. Josh, you have
It's
more
been
on
a
that?
lot. It's that mostly. I know there's been a lot of effort to create or to bolster the film program here in the state with tax incentives. There's been some television shows that have taken off here. Reservation Dogs on FX on Hulu
Cool.
shoots
Familiar,
here.
yeah.
A few years ago, Scorsese shot Killers of the Flower Moon, not too far from us. So it's been like David described as burgeoning, is what I would call it. A lot of people are shooting. They're shooting what would be set in Oklahoma. They're shooting in Oklahoma, and I think they're trying to get them to see that like we can provide more settings as well. I think that's where we're at.
Because
That's exciting.
That's great.
as a state, there's a lot. It's kind of thought of as being mostly just flat, which admittedly there's a lot of flat, but it's got a lot. There's a diversity of environments that you can shoot in. There's deserts in the towards the west, and there's really lush forests towards the southeast. So there, and then you've got some cityscapes. Obviously, Tulsa, the main ones, Tulsa and Oklahoma City, aren't as big and probably not as easy to make into other places as say like a Montreal or whatever. But there's it's something they're trying to grow, and there's a growing scene of I think writers and people trying to make short films and take advantage of all that. My favorite show set here now is the Lowdown, which is also on I think FX and Hulu, starring Ethan Hawke. And it's the first show set in Tulsa where I was like, oh no, this actually is Tulsa. That's like our crappy roads, and that's our,
Yeah.
you know, they got it all right.
Well, if you
and that's go ahead.
if you bring the tax incentive, they will come.
That's
Right?
what I.
It's about as
yes.
simple as that. Honestly, they'll chase the tax incentive. If Oklahoma brings a good tax incentive, people will bring their crews there and find ways to make movies there. I
Yeah,
do want to go back to the Utah bit though,
Please do.
because this landscape is so influential to me, and I love, like, it's got like a kind of weird West vibe to it in northern Utah, right? I want to shout to Trevor Turpin, who is the director of photography for the film, who's been a collaborator with me on a lot of short films we've done, and we're just very in tune with the geography of this place. And I just think he did a hell of a job making that shine throughout the film.
I have to talk about Utah now. So, no,
Okay.
so listen, one of my jobs is just, I'm a hype man for these guys. They're not going to do it themselves. But I think we got to realize, so Ethan and Taylor have been really embedded in the Utah film industry for what, 15 years, well over a decade. And they've really gained a reputation there. And really where that has come out is, look, this movie does not get made without the Utah film industry in a lot of ways. They mentioned tax, they mentioned locations, they mentioned scenes, but really, I mean, we bootstrapped this thing. I mean, we did this completely of our own will, and through the work of the connections of Taylor and Ethan that they've garnered over the last 10 years, and the trust and the respect of of all of these people. So this really just comes from, look, this is where we're from, this is where we work, and this is where we tell our stories, because that's where they're born, right? I think there's something really, really great about that. And to hear about it in Oklahoma, I'm sure, people are having these same, there are people in Kentucky and like Indiana, like having these stories. And I think that's beautiful. You don't have to be in Los Angeles to make a great movie. It's going to be hard anywhere you go, right? I mean,
Yeah.
but look, I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to use what you've got, and you're going to push that through to tell your story, which is informed by all of these things, both on the storytelling and artistic side, as well as the practical side, right? This, again, I'm going to say it again, this does not get made without the film industry in Utah. And we're incredibly lucky to be a beneficiary of that. And we're incredibly lucky that, Ethan and Taylor have been able to sustain careers for the past decade, for a lot of that. So it's, there's a lot that goes into that, other than just like, the story we're telling, and hey, it's a beautiful country and everything like that. It's an ecosystem that has to make all of that stuff come together.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that's beautifully said. And 100%, we punched above our weight with our crew and cast, like, in a pretty huge way. And we're very grateful for the crew that worked on this film. Some of the best in the industry, truly. And the stars just kind of aligned for them to come help us on our little movie. And everyone had a good time, and we want to do it again. But yeah, shout out to like the Utah crew for sure. Like the entire crew was local crew. And
That's
all the
awesome.
cast was local besides Forey, one cast member. So happy.
Oh, right.
celebrations. Yeah.
It's
I was gonna
amazing.
say, you worked on Yellowstone, and was sort of working on that show and working on past shows. How did the experience that you gathered working on those projects kind of help you with this?
I mean, it's everything, right? Like, I did 4 seasons on Yellowstone. I was like the first person to open the production office for season 1 of Yellowstone. And I like telling this story because it's kind of fun. I moved in July of 2017 to Utah Film Studios, which is in Park City. And we started Yellowstone. Taylor Sheridan certainly knew how big it was going to be the whole time, but nobody else did. He just had so much faith in the film. But as we were prepping that at Utah Film Studios, there's another film that Ethan was working on at the same time that goes by Hereditary, that became a pretty huge cultural phenomenon as well. So
Yes.
No one made that one a be great either.
yeah, in the summer of
This guy doesn't know what he's
2017,
doing. Go ahead. Sorry.
in the summer of 2017, there was just like Yellowstone and Hereditary were both filming at the same time, and it's crazy to look back and see what a phenomenon both of those have became.
Yeah, Hereditary is one I watched once and said, I think I can't. I don't think I can do that anymore.
It's great.
I
It's
need
one
to
of my
move on.
favorites.
He
That's
watches it. He
it's
watches it all the time.
it's why I've seen it once and I had the same reaction.
I,
Oh,
it's,
It's so good.
I don't
It's
know if
so
I
heavy.
answered the question though. I think I think I just wanted to tell that story and maybe add a little humble brag in there about that. But
Well, I was gonna say some of the
Love it.
cast has been on Yellowstone,
Oh, yeah.
and am I wrong to maybe assume some of the crew may have also worked on that? So you have, like the connections that a show like that provides. Like that's all part of the journey, right? Is just building those connections.
100%. And that's like a lot of the crew that worked on By His Hand was on Yellowstone, namely our art department team. All three of those guys, Scott, Juice, and Lance, just like work day and night to make this thing just look the way it looks. And it's so rich and there's so much production value. And they're Yellowstone guys, right? And
Yeah.
Forey, of course, I got a pretty good relationship with a lot of the cast members while I was working on that. I called Forey saying, "Hey, I have a movie I want to make. I don't have a lot of money, and I have a part I wrote for you." And without even reading the script, he said yes.
No, it's always great.
That's awesome.
It's always
So
great. Oh, go
now
ahead.
that the movie is available to rent on Amazon and available through
Or you can
Hoopla,
buy it too, by the way.
You can buy it
You
too.
can buy it or rent it. Yeah.
What kind of what kind of audience or audience member are you hoping it connects with the most? Who do you want to find this movie?
Man, that's a huge question. I mean, I want this is going to sound silly, but like I want everyone to watch it just because I think everyone's going to take something differently from it. I think that people who come from kind of a background of uh you know, people who are, as Connor has said before, that I like the way you phrase this, religiously disaffected by religion. I think people who are disaffected by religion will take something from it. I think that people who don't have that experience, who are coming in raw to that experience, will find it fascinating. I hope I hope that I don't know. I just think I just have this on my mind. I hope that young men watch it. Honestly, I hope that like young dudes like I was in my 20s watch it because I feel like it's that for me is what I really ripped my soul in half writing this with Taylor. That it was the exploration of masculinity and manhood and how it kind of calls that out in its various forms. That's what that's what really resonates with me with this movie as we are, a few years away out from having shot it and written it.
And that's wonderful. And I feel like, Josh, I don't know, you might feel this way too. I feel like that's been a theme that we've kept coming back to, even with whether it's movies, like, because we've recently watched like some classics from like the 40s and 50s, or movies that are, coming out this year. It feels like that concept of, young men sort of coming into their coming of age and sort of determining, what kind of man or what kind of person they want to be, just is, I don't know, there's a lot of ways to go with it, but it's kind of a present one, that every guy has to ask himself or deal with at some point.
Sure. I want to hear
Um,
my brother's answers to that
Yeah,
question, though.
I think
Yeah.
that's a great question, and I would echo Ethan's sentiment on that for sure. I think that this film, anybody that grew up in a specific way of living that might feel more oppressive, that has found themselves kind of like lost and feeling unprepared for life, I hope they watch this and take something out of that. That's very personal to us, young men for sure, that just find themselves in behaviors they never thought they would find themselves in based on how they were raised and what they were taught to believe. unwinding some of that and uncoiling some of that isn't as easy as it seems, right? And women too that find themselves stuck in toxic codependent relationships. I would hope that there's some empowerment to be found there, and just kindness and some self-sufficiency, right, and self-reliance.
Yeah, and just it's so important. It was so important to us that we, without spoiling it, the specifics, but leaving it on a note of just like peace. Like
Yes.
maybe you won't reach the end of a road and like figure things out, but my God, with some work and with some courage, if you set out and you try to better yourself and you want to make a life for yourself, you might just end up in a place of peace and safety, in a place where you can make decisions for yourself.
Yeah, that's incredible. Connor, did you have what audience do you hope finds the movie? Who do you hope to see it?
Every audience.
Look, I think these guys have said it way better, but
Yeah.
for me, it's anyone that maybe finds something that they didn't expect, right? Or somebody that isn't sure that, this is a film for them and find something there. I think what I love about the film is there's so many different layers there, right? That I think that I found, even after watching it, after having read it, however many times and having worked on it. There's no message, right? There's no big agenda here. But I think just watching the film as it was done, like, coming back to like what they're talking about, being a young man or whatever. I think for me, there are definitely moments when you look at Sam and you're like, oh shit, I've been that guy. And like,
Sure.
I didn't think I was being that guy. I thought I was being a good guy. But like you see it and it's just kind of gross. And you're like, all right, well, lesson learned or whatever it might be. I mean, you look at all of the different themes that arise there. If somebody can connect with that on any personal level, it would be great. And I think, who would be the ideal is somebody that didn't think that they were going to, or didn't know that they needed to. I think that's always the fun one, and the one that you want to impact. Not someone who's being looked to preach to, right? I mean,
Right.
look, that's, and again, not trying to say that like there's some agenda that we want everyone to follow, but you
Right.
hope that your art affects somebody in some way that they didn't expect at the end of the day. Our art, their art, our collective art. I did not write this or make it, but
Yeah, you did. You were there. Yeah.
I do have one other. So this will be a little off of the topic we've been on, but I do have one other question, and I don't, who knows if I'll get to talk to you guys again. So don't want to miss it. But I found there's a really interesting shot in the movie where Emma looks up to the stars and they start moving like fireflies, and I was just kind of curious what the inspiration for that particular image was.
because she's high as a kite.
Can I?
Yeah, I think Ethan and I may have similar answers, but so go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, mushrooms.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
It's Taylor. I can speak for myself, but I think it was within a few years of writing this movie, I had done a very like intentional, like plant medicine, a series of plant medicine journeys out in nature, and it I'm not afraid to say that probably saved my life and like retooled me as a human being. And so I think subliminally, or maybe not subliminally, we wanted to infuse some of that in our movie because we were just kind of steeped in that space. But yeah, she's on bad medicine. When Taylor and I experienced that, it was good medicine. You kind of look up at the stars and it's like you get this feeling that the stars kind of have been like knocked out of their sockets and they're zipping around a little, and it's a very beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So for Emma to see that and for that to be her, even in the midst of like this kind of scary horror nightmare that she's going through, this like moment of looking up and seeing that like the stars are classically like fixed They're fixed up there. They don't move. And so if I'm in Emma's head, maybe I interpret that looking up and seeing these things that are generally fixed and immovable, like some of her beliefs and the things she was raised with, seeing those kind of being a little more fluid, that might have, subconsciously or not, spurred her on to challenge her own reality a little bit, make a move. Mushrooms, though.
That's mushrooms is the real
that's
answer,
my
David.
answer as well. Is
That's the genesis.
I was on a similar trajectory is Ethan, and I was specifically while we were writing this film, it was like a big pivotal moment in my life, and I was like unlearning a lot of things and relearning things. That shot, I think Ethan said very eloquently, is just a moment of, I think, Emma seeing that nothing is as it seems and you're not stuck, right? Short of having a 3D atmosphere and the stars coming down on you, which is what I experienced on mushrooms, and it made me feel one with the universe, right? And all that stuff. That's the best we can do to kind of like give her that like moment of clarity.
Well, that's amazing. I really liked that shot because I was like, okay, all right, this is very.
That's the movie we're watching. Okay.
I was like, well, it was to me, it was really, it was really stand out, and there's some other moments that she kind of sees, she has visions or hallucinates other things, and that was a really interesting thread through the movie too.
I do feel like we have to say, don't do drugs. Maybe this is me as a child of the 80s and Dare. We're not no advocations here. Just giving you our piece.
If you are taking drugs, make sure that they are your what's the word? Under supervision.
There you go. Adult supervision.
Yes.
All right. Well, Ethan, Taylor, Connor, I want to thank you guys again for coming on the show and talking to us about the movie. It's been a really interesting conversation. Tell us again where we can find it and what's coming up next for By His Hand.
Amazon and Hoopla. What's coming up next? Hopefully we go from here, right? We're really excited to see where it goes.
So I think we're gonna do it's so available to rent and buy on Amazon, and then correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but it's gonna be on Tubi May 29th.
That's right. Yeah.
So rent and buy now is gonna go to AVOD on the 29th.
Cool. Excellent. All right, we'll be looking forward to it. Thank you guys.
Thanks for the conversation, you guys.
Hey, go Oklahoma. We're rooting for you guys.
Hey, go.
Yes, Utah and Oklahoma.